Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. From grace to grass. That's how a lot of people have described the Ghana Trade Fair Center. Well, I've spent some time with the acting CEO of the Ghana National Trade Fair Center, Dr. Agnes Adu. And in this interview, you get to find out just how much the nation has lost and how, whether or not this Trade Fair Center is a viable entity.
I'm CEO of Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited. I took this seat in July of 2017, okay. So I'm in my first year of this job. I am Ghanaian. I was born here in Esiakwa, in the Eastern region, yes. I had the opportunity to travel since my parents traveled very early out of Ghana. So my siblings and my family got the opportunity to move to the US, and I was a teenager at the time. So I schooled, most of my schooling was done in the US, high school, my college education, went to school in New York.
Okay.
And then I'm an optometrist, as you say, and so for the last 15 plus years, almost 20 years, I have practiced my profession as an optometrist in the state of Georgia, Atlanta, the city of Atlanta.
Wow.
In the last few years, I've decided that I will come back home and use what I've learned, my skill, my knowledge abroad, come and help my country.
After you've contributed to the brain drain.
That's right. You know, the brain drain, the problem is that it does not have to be a drain. You know, you go out of the country, learn what works there, and as long as at some point you come back and you bring that knowledge back into this country and drain it the reverse way. So yes, it goes out, but it needs to drain back in. So hopefully a lot more people will take that advice and drain it back into the country.
What has doing anything with the eye got to do with doing business anyway? Because I'm trying to find out, what do you think are the core competencies that you possess? For which reason you've been given this job?
You know, being a professional is multifaceted. And I'll take my profession for example. I'm a clinician, I'm a doctor, I see patients. I also run the business of doctor, meaning I have my own private office, my own private practice. I belong to a network in the US of private practices that we franchise doctors' offices. So in the US, there's the clinic side, and then there's also the business side that we run. So for the last 20 years, I've run my own businesses, I've run my own clinics, I've run the network clinics. So you gain skill not just as a clinician, but also as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur, and then you use that all-encompassing, all the multifaceted part of you, and you come back into your country.
So you believe that you're well qualified for this position?
Absolutely. I've run multi-million-dollar private clinics, and so this is actually quite easy.
It doesn't look easy to me, by the way, as a taxpayer, and I'm sure for my viewers who are taxpayers as well, it doesn't look easy. Trade fair. The Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, like I said, when I was growing up, this was, for me, it was fun, you know, because people come here, they play music and everything. But we pass by Trade Fair now, we look at it, and we feel really sad.
Absolutely.
Where are we?
I agree with you 100%, Gifty. It is a mountain task ahead of us. For the better part of the last decade, this company, Trade Fair Company Limited, this facility, Trade Fair Center, has been destroyed. It has been demolished, meaning deteriorated to a point where it's unusable. And that is unacceptable, that we as a country take our assets and just sit back, fold our arms, and let it go to this level. So when you say that you feel sad, I feel even more sad. My goal for this company is to take it to the next level. You remember, as you said, you grew up here, this place was a fun, active place to be. Even those of us who grew up in Koforidua and never got the chance to visit Trade Fair back then. The kids who came
here... You heard a whole lot of stories about Trade Fair.
I mean, they came back with fantastic stories. We heard them. So the fact that we have allowed over the decades, especially in the last decade, we have allowed this facility to get to this point. It is a sad story.
When you say especially within the last 10 decades, I believe that you're trying to refer to the NDC administration.
I would say that the last administration did quite a horrible job managing this facility.
But what does it mean that they inherited anything better?
I believe slightly better, but this place was built in the 1960s, so it's not just one administration that has watched it go down.
Right.
We have changed government, right. And over the last 50 years, nothing much has been done to the facility. No improvement really on any meaningful level has been done to the administration. But taking this seat, the reason I refer to the last decade is because the books are open for maybe a decade that I can see into, okay. And then we're doing more to look into what happened in the past 20, 30 years.
Is that necessary to what you want to do? Does that help? In your goal anyway.
Absolutely. You have to see what led us here. If you learn nothing, not to repeat it. That's number one.
Okay.
And from there, you can also plan what to do next. What worked in the past, what didn't work, what we need to keep, what needs to go. So that planning is ongoing as we speak.
So as we speak, what have you realized went wrong?
It's mismanagement. The last, I will put it at, again, the last decade, I will put it, it's mismanagement, total mismanagement. There are staff here, but yet nothing goes on here. There are tenants on the ground, 200, over 200 tenants. In the last 10 years, revenue has not been collected from them. And there's management here, there's a CEO that was here.
Speaking of revenue, how much did you meet when you took over this company?
Zero. Zero.
There was absolutely nothing in the company's account.
In July 18th, 2017, my first day at work, Trade Fair Company Limited had zero balance. And I'm being very generous by saying zero balance.
Was that a negative to the zero?
Absolutely. There was a negative to the zero. Because some checks haven't come in. There were accounts that over the last 10 years had been drained. Where it had been bankrupted. Basically, creditors were attacking the bank accounts slowly to a point where each of them had to be closed. The operating account, when I walked in July 18, 2017, was a welfare account, which means that it was an account where creditors can't touch so that you can operate your business, and that had zero. So when I put it at the last 10 years, I mean the last 10 years has been disastrous in this company.
Since you took over, you've said that you've retrieved about 700,000.
Oh, more than that. I retrieved that in 90 days of my first 90 days.
How much is, if it's not 700,000?
Right now, of course, I can't go over all the books into detail because I don't have it in front of you, but I'll give you the synopsis. On July 18, 2017, when I walked in, there was zero balance. All the tenants on the premises, with the exception of one or two tenants, were in arrears. Some 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 500 cedis, 20 cedis, all levels of it. Arrears or rent hadn't been collected in years. There was management here over the last 10 years. Not only that,
were they being paid?
Absolutely, they were being paid. They were drawing salary until the money's run out, because if you don't bring in revenue, how are you going to support your system? So the management themselves, they were in arrears for 18 months when I walked in the first day. So if that's not mismanagement, I don't know what is. We have just sat here and folded our arms for the last 10 years and did nothing to help this place.
Granted.
And that is the saddest story of it all.
Granted, let's assume that 700,000 is what you have retrieved so far, because that's the figure I have with me at the moment.
So let me go over that and give you a clearer
how did you get that money?
You have to manage, you started saying a clinician versus businesswoman. Sometimes you put your clinic hat on and sometimes you put your business hat on. So when you come in, my first order of business is to figure out where our revenue comes from. What are the sources of revenue that I can go? I haven't gone to a bank to go to borrow money. I needed to see if this place is viable, if I run it correctly. Our revenue comes from 2 or 3 sources. The main 2 sources is the permanent tenants on the premises who pay ground rent to the company.
Okay.
So I attacked that first. They were in arrears in excess of 1.5 million, and that's the tenants that were here. Some that had gone and probably it's not collectible anymore. I'll leave that to the side. So 1.5 million, I can safely say in July of 2018, the arrears were in that amount. What I did was that I kicked in an aggressive revenue collection plan. What I mean by that is that you need to make sure that you know who is on the premises, who are the tenants, that you regularize some kind of lease that protects you, and of course, following law, you protect the tenant as well. And I made sure that people know that we are doing business here and that you can't do business at trade fair if you don't pay your ground rent. So the revenue collection is that I reorganized the staff. We went after the tenants, gave them notices, sat down with them to see how they can quickly come up with their arrears. And within 90 days of that aggressive collection plan, I collected the first 700,000 Ghana cedis of the back arrears. So the first 5 days we collected 100,000 Ghana cedis. It's not a hard job. You just have to take it as your priority and make sure that you are doing what you are mandated and required to do.
Out of that 700,000, which is the hypothetical amount I'm dealing with at the moment, you had to pay about 600,000 to the ECG?
Of course, your revenue is 700,000 in 90 days. You don't turn it all to ECG. ECG problem, again, that's a second problem that management before I came in here had ignored. You had a situation where nobody was thinking through the problems and coming up with solutions. How ECG got to that 600,000 arrears, it's not Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited's bill. Again, back to the tenants. The tenants are on the same meter as the company, meaning Trade Fair Company. So ECG will come, read that meter, and give the bill to the Trade Fair Company Limited.
What sort of agreement did the company have with tenants so that was it that you pay and then the company, gives you electricity?
The company before I got here didn't have any agreement on electricity. They have a list of tenants. They will go into their premises and say, you have one air condition, so you pay 50 cedis. It was not any agreement. It wasn't even a plan. And so it got to a point where the tenants had run up the electricity bill, and even the small payments that they were supposed to pay and contribute to that, they were not paying. The solution, and the arrears, the 600,000 arrears, was actually belonged to tenants here, not the company. We did not separate the company from its operations, its facilities. Okay. So immediately, what I worked out with ECG is that identify what belongs to the company and identify what belongs to the tenants and bill them directly and give them their own individual meters. How are we sitting here for 50 years and tenants don't have electricity?
So that's the system you have now.
Absolutely. And now the ECG recognizes that indeed it is not our bill and that they will go after the tenant. My bill is only 100,000 of it. I've paid 60,000 of it, and the rest will be paid, and I keep my revenue intact. You have to think through your problems. This is not the time to play. This is time for serious business. And over the last 10 years, business has not happened here, and that's the saddest story.
And this is what you've come to supervise.
Absolutely.
And you're looking to turn around.
Absolutely. And I think we've turned it around immediately to solve the emergency sirens going off about the business and where it is and the comatose state that this trade fair company is. And now we've been able to even organize an international fair with over 500 exhibitors here exhibiting with all side attractions going on. So
I'd like to talk about that quite separately, but then you still on the problems of the company. Yes. How I've read somewhere that you said that for about 18 months staff here hadn't been paid.
That's right.
What's the reason?
Same reason. When I walked in July, the arrears were 18 months. Every employee here had not been paid.
For 18 months, including management members? Including
management, had not been paid 18 months. Where were the revenue coming from when you folded your arms and sitting there and letting your richest source of revenue go scot-free? And so once we kicked it in, the revenue doesn't support yet clearing all the arrears. But since July 2017, every employee gets a paycheck every month under my tenure, because you need the morale. You need people to feel motivated. You need people to be able to feed their family so that they can come to work and be productive at work. And so those are some of the challenges that we're still facing and we are still working through. And the next level of trade fair, I think we'll be able to handle it.
Are you going to pay the back pay of 18 months?
We are required by law to do it. It's not a choice that somebody has worked in the state of Ghana and you decide you don't want to pay them. That's against.
So what's the plan of payment?
The plan is, again, where we take trade fair from here. Our revenue sources, we have quickly put in place a plan to revive the center, to rebuild the center to a point where it is a profitable commercial venture. Once we get to that point, it's easy to handle arrears and that sort of thing.
Okay. You said about over 500 exhibitors were attracted this year. Who are these people? I've read somewhere as well that you have local and foreign entities, you know, exhibiting here. Who are they? How did you choose them? How did the trade fair, a dying trade fair or a dead trade fair, attract exhibitors anyway?
Again, it's how you put yourself out there, how you package yourself, the immediate arrangements and even some of the repairs that we have been able to do to the facility, getting the pavilions ready, advertising, all those things. I made an effort to reach out to both international and local exhibitors. Some I reached out myself, went out, met CEOs, different institutions. So everybody responded to the call because they can tell that this place actually needs some help. And a lot of people came on board through sponsorships. NIB, National Investment Bank, were very instrumental in giving us sponsorship to try to revive some of the facility. But who is here? We have over 500 both local and international exhibitors. This place has the facility or the company has a rich database of exhibitors who have actually given up coming here. We went after those exhibitors. We put out to them how we will get their businesses represented at the fair. Not only that, we showed them some of the improvements. We took feedback from them over the past 3, 4, 5 months, incorporated it into what we are doing, and it gave them some encouragement that when they come here, they will get a better exposure than they did the last year. And I think from the feedback, we have been able to do that.
How much are you making from this over 500
It is
exhibitors?
still ongoing. So those numbers, of course, we accounts and management will look at it after the fair and do the proper accounting, and I'll be able to give you better figures.
Did you have a target at the beginning?
Yes, we have a target at the beginning.
What's the target?
We will probably go over the target as far as the exhibitors that we were expecting to show up. Our target was to get 300 exhibitors. Okay. We have 2 pavilions that were ready and in good shape to hold the fair, and each of them holds 130, so 260. And then the outdoors, we figure we will get another 200 or 100. But so it has even exceeded our expectations at this point. That the facility, as it looks like now, can even hold.
I like many Ghanaian taxpayers, are eager to reconcile the figures as and when you have it. And we'll be going out there to have a look at what's happening out there so we can relate what we're talking to with what's on the ground. So let me finish dealing with some few personal issues that have come up quite recently. Speaking of employee remuneration, let me read to you this, and I'm sure that you're very familiar with this line that I'm going to read. You are appointed to help revive the struggling Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, and you pay yourself 20,000 cedis. How insensitive. He goes on and says no money to undertake major capital investment and some recurrent spending, and yet one person heading a defunct state-owned company is bagging about 250,000 annually. What are the priorities of and the mantra of business will not be as usual under the NPP?
And what is your question?
I want you to respond to it.
Okay. I think I've responded to that. And on that Facebook, I think this was a Facebook post by the General Secretary who has been suspended from the PNC. But I will leave him aside and I'll address that directly to you.
Are you earning 20,000 cedis at the end of every month?
Actually, the CEO of Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, the approved salary for that seat is determined by the board, not by the CEO. Okay. So before I got here, the CEO's salary was already determined. That's the first thing.
How much was it?
Actually, it's not as he quoted. I think what he's quoting has to do with all the allowances, maybe
other allowances that come with it. But it boils down to 20,000.
I think it boils down to that. But give me the opportunity to explain. When the CEO's salary is determined for the company, no one can change it. I can change it, the CEO can change it, the board can change it. So I came into a situation where there's zero salary or there's zero money. So immediately I got the staff together and said, look, the CEO's pay is too much to come, not too much for the seat if you're doing a good job. Don't get me wrong. I deserve to be paid if I'm doing my job and if I'm creating the revenue to support it. This is not a government subvented company. It is an IGF company. So I sat the board, the management down, and I explained to them, if you take the CEO's salary out of this measly coffers that we have, of course we can't support it. So me, even though I'm the CEO, leave my salary out. This new board hasn't determined what the salary is, so we have to go by the old structure if I am to be paid. So for the first 90 days while I was collecting all the revenue, my salary did not enter the situation. So that is a false narrative to put it out there that the CEO of Ghana Trade Fair Company, I run a sensible business. When the IGF doesn't support that I take salary, of course, 90 days, I don't take salary. It is the determined salary, but even though it's been approved, you can't take it if the money is not there. And the board will have to go back and look at the present situation and decide, do we go down, do we go up, do we keep it the same? So this is just mere propaganda to make it seem like, let me tell you who took that salary. Okay, hold on. The CEO, the previous CEO that sat in this seat for 10 solid years, ran the place down, took that salary. I came
20,000 cedis.
Absolutely. Until it ran out where he couldn't take anymore. But I came in and decided that no, the first few months when we are regularizing, my salary should not even enter the equation.
But then the company will still owe you some back pay.
Absolutely. Nobody works for free. You don't work for free, Gifty.
I don't.
And the work that I do,
work for free.
So would not work for free. Thank you for acknowledging that. When IGF supports what I get paid and what I am due, I would take that salary.
20,000 cedis for one person, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money for a CEO who brings in zero revenue. I agree with you 100%. A CEO who sat here for 10 years and brought in on his last day, left zero coffers, did not deserve to be paid 200,000. A CEO, 20,000. Actually, he quoted 200,000 annually.
That annually, yeah.
A CEO who works and turns this place around into a commercially viable, multi-million-dollar operation deserves to be paid even more than that. But until we get to that point, you are right. If your revenue doesn't support your salary, you should not be taking that salary.
Okay. Now, the point that Atik Mohammed, the man we're referring to in this post here, is making is that even though you're not making anything, let's say the first few months, you're not making anything, the company isn't making anything, the fact that you're not taking the salary now does not mean that you won't take it.
Again, I'll explain. You don't work for free, I don't work for free.
Certainly not.
Nobody should work for free.
20,000 cedis, that's quite a lot of money.
If you generate that income, that revenue for the company, you have turned it into a multi-million, commercially viable.
That is the point you made already.
It is absolutely, and it's not for a debate for me to say, it is absolutely up to the board, up to the shareholders to decide what percentage of that they think a CEO should.
But the first few months, you were not making anything.
Absolutely.
So we still owe you. I mean, and when I say we, I mean myself as a taxpayer,
absolutely,
and my viewers as taxpayers, we still pay you.
Absolutely. I didn't take a seat that had zero coffers. The taxpayer, the shareholder, the board can decide. The CEO's salary is too much, and they can rearrange it.
I've lived in this country all my life, and I know that rates don't go down.
Oh, okay. Well,
rates never go down. And in fact, it will be unfair to downgrade anybody's salary. I think that our labor laws don't even support. So the assumption is that you know that the salary isn't going to change, and you know that in the first few months you didn't make any profits for the company, but you're still going to take 20,000 cedis.
In the first few months, I didn't make any profits for the company. I think the first few,
and I mean profits.
Okay, but I think the first few months, when the IGF didn't support it, sure, the company should make decisions, management should make decisions, and the board can make decisions, whether I'm due that. I'll leave it up to the board, I'll leave it up to the shareholder to make that decision. It's not up to the CEO to say, I want more, I want less, I want same. So that decision, as you said, maybe in this country, we don't downgrade salaries. But the board can make that decision, absolutely. If the board makes a decision...
The labor laws don't support it.
If the labor laws don't support it, then you can't break the laws. I mean, are you requiring that I break the laws?
Okay, now what I require of you is to look back at it as someone who doesn't live in Ghana. Assume that you don't live in Ghana. You've lived in a different system, and you've seen how that system works.
Yes.
So on the assumption that you don't live in Ghana, and you're looking at a company that's not making any money, but that has the law supporting 20,000 cedis a month for one person, how does that strike you personally?
Again, in other systems, when companies make money or when companies are commercially viable, of course their CEOs get paid. And so in this land of Ghana, it has laws. I think all companies fall within that law. If you run your company to the ground, as Trade Fair Company the last 10 years has been run to the ground, then the board has some decisions to make. And only the board and only the shareholder can make that decision. But I agree with you, if you run your company to the ground, as the previous CEO did, he did not deserve to be paid.
You had a response online for Atik. Let's see if I can quote to you that response that you had for Atik. You said, I'll give you 20 minutes to check the record and issue an apology, or I will take this defamatory post to the courts. I get that you only live in propaganda, but you've picked the wrong woman, and woman is in caps, to mess with. I intend to sue you for defamation. I can guarantee you that. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 exclamation signs at the back. I can tell you were screaming at this gentleman. Do you think that as someone who wants to, with all your experience and with the goal that you had in mind to achieve for Trade Fair, that it was really necessary to get to engage yourself in this social media banter? I wouldn't
say it was necessary, but in the present way of life, social media, we all live there. Your reputation is in your hands, sure. If someone takes the liberty to put wrong information out there, I think we all have our electronic microphones to defend it. Sometimes in that arena, the back and forth can be much, and you state your point and you go on. And hopefully I've stated my point.
Why didn't you just go to court if you wanted to go to court? Did you need to write anything on social media?
You don't need to do anything, sure. But I will leave the case up to my lawyers to advise.
Well, some people have already seen it as an empty threat.
That's okay.
It's an empty threat?
Absolutely not. If my lawyers think that there's defamation in that post, we will take it to the next level.
To where are you now?
I see it as that. I'm still talking to my attorneys.
What do they say?
I can't tell you what my attorneys tell me.
Not anything that would jeopardize. You can tell us something. Not anything that would jeopardize your chances in court.
I told you what I said. I would speak to my attorneys if we find defamation in there. I think so, but I'm not an attorney. We would
I take note of the cuffs you use when you're saying woman. And that's because there's been a very interesting talk about feminism, etc., especially here in Ghana with the pepper them and the sugar them and all of that.
Okay.
And I'm sure that you're aware of that.
Sure.
Do you feel that someone will try to intimidate you because you're a woman?
I think women have that burden. Even in the US or outside of Ghana, it's not an uncommon thing that a woman has to prove a woman has to prove herself in the positions that we get. I don't think it is all that odd that I get singled out because they think I'm a woman. I won't respond. I'll go to the corner. But I'm a little bit of a different woman. I think I tell my story best. I don't think anybody can tell my story the way I tell my own story. And so if woman is in cap, I want, maybe my position was that, yes, I'm a woman, but I can hold my own.
When you do that, people say that then all of us begin to play all this gender card, you know, just throw it around unnecessarily. Really, wasn't that?
I don't see it. I don't see it that way.
way.
I don't see it that way. Not at all. I don't see it that way.
When we go out there, I'll have you tell us a bit more about what your plan is and give us a bit more details about what the plan is going forward for trade fair. But are you married? I mean, what can we know? Is there anything about you that we can know? Softer side.
Softer side.
Yes.
No, I'm not married. I'm single. Softer side, I take my quiet and private life seriously. I work hard, and then on my downtime.
You play hard?
I play sometimes. You know, if you need to unwind, sometimes you have to make time to kind of breathe, sit back and take a little break for yourself. My family, my parents, my siblings, I have 6 brothers and sisters, and we support each other, and I tap into that support system.
Were you born into a political family?
No, not at all.
How did you get here?
I won't call myself a politician.
Oh, you are a politician.
I'm in a political seat, I'm aware
you
of
are a politician. Not even now, you are a politician. You were a politician back in Atlanta.
I wouldn't call myself a politician, but...
Well, I'll call you one.
You will call me
yes.
one, okay. It's not a bad title. I think you can use it for the good. Some use it for the bad. I mean, we hear all kinds of stories about politicians, so that word can be a little challenging to take on. But I won't consider myself the typical politician. Really, not exactly. I'm more private sector. I think that in any economy, any country, if you look at advanced, developed countries, the thing that drives the economy, the thing that moves the economy to through its natural steps, usually is the private sector. Government can't.
That sounds very NPP ideologist, but I'm just saying.
But it is true. It is an NPP ideology, and I jump on that, what you said about NPP, to say that ideology in other places have actually worked, and it has developed advanced countries, and so we can move on to that, empower that private sector where I come from, and make sure that we encourage that system to move this economy.
Okay, well, hopefully we get to do a bit more about herself when we get out there. But I've been speaking to Dr. Agnes Adu. She's my special guest for today. We've been talking about turning around the Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, which personally, I mean, makes me sad personally. And I'm sure that you have your own story to tell about the Ghana Trade Fair Center. Let's head out and see what we find there. So as I indicated to you, you're welcome back from the break, by the way. As I indicated, we'll be going through the pavilions and looking at Trade Fair Center, what really is being done. This is Pavilion A, where I'm told by the CEO that we have about 130 made in Ghana goods and services on exhibition here. The CEO is still here, and I'm still going to continue engaging him. Maybe we should move in a little bit, so we can continue our talk. So, what makes you think that Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited is a viable business with the sort of liabilities that you've inherited?
Yeah, I think that it's a challenge, no doubt about that. As I've emphasized before, we've neglected the facility and the company as a whole. So we are really going back to the drawing board how to reassess what our issues are. I believe that it's a commercially viable company. Even the location of the facility alone. The location is 5 minutes from the airport if there's no traffic. You get into your car in 10 minutes from a convention, you are at the airport. The facility is seconds from beachfront. In other places, beachfront properties get developed. It's well thought out. It serves a purpose. And I see that here. This is a gold mine of a location. Roads are good around it, unlike other places that you see around the country. So I don't see a reason why we can't turn this place into a commercially viable. Okay. What do I mean by that? Basically, Trade Fair is mandated to be the organization through which we promote trade and industry here. Conventions, fairs, actually international fair is in the language of our mandate. So a proper convention center, one that can hold international conferences, one that can hold 10,000 people, pavilions that can have a theme associated with it. If we want to highlight the oil industry, the technology and the textiles, we need to be able to absolutely of this facility. And we will rebuild this facility to that international standard. And that's really the only way we can make it into a commercially viable.
Right. We're here. This, yes. Let me say, this is the result of you and your team's hard work.
Yes.
Am I correct, or
sure.
am I patronizing
you? No.
Okay.
And it's not patronizing. This is what we are meant to do. Like I said, the word international convention is in the language of our mandate.
Very well.
So this road that we are entering.
So I'd like for you to tell us a bit about.
Yeah. So this road we are entering, we are in Pavilion A. Right. Pavilion A is 130 exhibitors from Ghana, meaning Ghana-made goods, Ghana companies. Right. In this lane, you have all the government institutions. GMPC is here, GIPC is here, the trade promotions are here, some of the banks are here, NIB, our national bank is here. Okay. We want this to be the pavilion where a Ghana company can
Maybe we can just take a little walk.
A Ghana company can come, can interact with fellow business people, can do business, can network, can find funding partners. Okay. That's what international conventions are supposed to do. And so hopefully we've brought everybody together here so that they can mingle and do business, have some fun, but mostly do business.
I see. And I see that one of the things, as I was saying, when I was much younger, we used to come dance, have fun. I still see a lot of young people here. How is the company able to attract the sort of visitors who come in here?
We did a lot of social media promotions. Okay. Now people live online. We live on our palms. Right. By the time you get home, you've already heard the news that is trending on your phone. Right. So our push really for this year's fair was to target the young who live on their palms and who live in their phones.
But do they have money to buy anyway?
But you see, when you were a child, when you came, even the entertainment aspect alone, you drew your parents here. You know, when you're a child, sometimes you can't even move alone. Your parents have to drive you here. Right. And so we want everybody to be able to enjoy the fair. We want the kids to enjoy the fair. We want the adults to enjoy the fair. So we planned a lot of side activities as part of the fair. We have a whole area for children, kids, little kids to play. Bouncy castles, popcorn, cotton candy like you remember when you were a child. And so all that is happening on the grounds. At the same time, the fair is also happening. Right. So there's no shortage of things to do when you get here. Yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk about your plan. Yes. You have spoken about all that you want to do, make this an international, that. But what is the plan? I read as well somewhere that you said it would take about 1 billion Ghana cedis.
Actually, that was a misquote. Okay. The question was, what's the cost? I think in Ghana, all the journalists come, what's the cost? You can't give $1 or a cedi amount to such a project. We are going to have a mixed-use, multi-purpose international facility, international convention center being the core of it. So when you go to the convention, what do you do there? You are at the convention, you also eat there, you sleep there, you leisure there. Most of the time in the whole week, you will do everything, all your activities there. So we've planned to have the convention center be the core of the project. Then in addition to that, hotels, convention hotels where people can stay when they come to the conventions. Right. We have leisure like amusement park activities. We are talking to government institutions like Cocoa Board, GMPC to have their headquarters be part of the plan. The One District, One Factory, we are looking at putting logistic hubs here, technology hubs.
And you do have a place specifically for the One District, One Factory project, and how it's going to, how Trade Fair Company Limited is going to partner government to make that, to give us that deliverable. But then, when you talk about costing, when people ask, it's because they want to believe that if you have a plan, then you already know what's going to cost you.
There's not a dollar amount, is what I'm saying, or a CD amount that you can say, okay, bring me this. It will, each of the arms of it will cost differently. We are in the planning stages. So if anybody quotes one amount, you can be under it, you can be over it. So it's not something.
But we have to have a rough figure that we're working with.
Yes, absolutely. I think that once the project comes together, once all the developers and investors have been engaged, then that costing
we'll be able to do.
Well, but until now, I think my answer was that it's difficult to cost it at the beginning. But projects like this, when you look at it outside, usually it's not some small amount. Sometimes it's in the billions by the time you are done with it. So that's basically what.
So as we speak, we don't know the specific amounts. What's going to cost us to revamp this place according to your plan?
We are in the planning stages, and so once all the developers have been engaged, the investors have come on board, we've finalized our contracts, that information will be made available.
Where are we now?
Right now we are in the planning stages. We gave ourselves the first quarter of 2018 to finish our master plan and see which priority projects can go in the first phase of it. Our priority projects, what we are mandated to do is really international convention center. So the convention center, hello, how are you?
Maybe it's my first time.
I see.
They already came here.
Yes.
Mrs. Diallo. Okay, all right.
Mrs. Fal, nice to meet you.
Mrs.
Cisse, nice to meet you.
She's Gambian.
Mrs. Job. Balde. Okay. Mrs. Job. Hi, nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you. And welcome to Ghana.
Thank you.
So we're just looking around. We have the CEO herself. Oh my goodness. Did I just say himself?
That's why woman is in caps.
I know. That's why woman is in caps. So I have the CEO here. We're having a little chit chat. We're also looking at what's on exhibition here, and of course how we can all help revamp the Trade Fair Center. So this is Pavilion
B. This is Pavilion B.
Okay.
Exactly. So in this pavilion, we have another 130 international exhibitors. So in this area, all the exhibitors and the companies that you see are outside of Ghana. Some, though their headquarters may be outside of Ghana, they actually also have local companies or local partners or local distributors. So you will find them here as well.
Okay. Well, we've just spoken to a few women who are not very optimistic, even though it hasn't ended yet. How do you feel when you get some of these
Actually, I feel encouraged in the sense that last year, for example, this pavilion was totally closed. The previous administration was not even able to fill the Pavilion A with 130. Only 50 exhibitors came. So to even get to a point where 500 exhibitors have come, the feedback that we get will help guide us in how to plan the next fairs even better, what to incorporate in it. I have to say this is an international fair, so our focus is not on sales. Our focus is on networking, exposing our local industry to that of our global partners.
But do they have that understanding?
Absolutely.
Because when she sees you and she's complaining to you, obviously she doesn't have the understanding.
And Gifty, you have to take the criticisms and be constructive with it. Take it and see how you can incorporate it into your next planning. The prospectus spells out exactly what this fair is. It's come expose your business to partners.
Get people to know
exactly. And then we have grand sales. And the grand sales, our focus is come and sell your brand. Exactly. So this is not a sales fair. It's an international fair. It's a networking fair. There's quite a difference between the two.
Okay, what I'm seeing here is welcome to the Moroccan Pavilion. So
we invited all the embassies. Some of them responded. Morocco, South Africa, Madagascar. They responded and brought their embassies to kind of network with international people,
wow.
and talk about their own cultures. Yesterday we sipped tea with the Moroccans. Gifty, I think you guys have missed a lot. You should have come on board a lot quicker.
This is this is the Moroccan embassy. So what is it?
It's a, go ahead.
Yes, it's a company.
Yes, 6 different.
Oh, 6 different companies
from Morocco.
From Morocco.
Exactly.
Oh wow. So you don't have anything here. What do you tell people when they come? Just to show them that. Oh yeah, I see
right.
that.
So basically what they are, this is the information center.
Right.
And then they have booths that they've brought companies from Morocco through the embassy. So we invite you to come and showcase companies from your country and do business here and network here. And they bring their companies, so you can see that they are all labeled which countries they are from. So the first stand is really the hospitality stand where you go and maybe mingle.
We're wrapping up this conversation in a bit, but back to what we were talking about before the women interrupted you with your feedback about the plan. So as you say, you're still at the planning stages.
Yes, yes.
But I've already seen some news reports that the place is closing down in March.
No, no, I'm not sure where you heard that, but no, the place is not closing down in March. Of course, this year we are in the planning stages. The master plan will be done first quarter, maybe early second quarter, where we will unveil it. And get some feedback as to our partners and developers, then take it to the second level of actually engaging the developers and investors. So 2018 is really, by the end of 2018, we hope that we had finished our, we're going that way, okay. We hope that we had finished our planning and have engaged and contracted with the developers to be able to even start any development here.
Okay, so when does it shut down for the, because the last time I spoke to you, you mentioned that it was going to be broken down.
Yes, it's going to be phased out. So it's not one day that you bring a bulldozer and level the whole thing. The architects and the experts, the engineers will do some groundwork and some infrastructure work first. And then from there, we will zone it out into the priority projects, what comes first. So all won't go down at the same time. We have put up some mobile pavilions that we can still run exhibitions and fairs and events while construction is going on. So we'll do it in a way that makes sense, that doesn't level everything in one shot. Exactly. So and there's a plan to how we're doing.
And I did ask, and I'm asking again, is that the best option available for us?
Which option?
The option of breaking it down.
That it's not the best, it's the only option. This facility, this facility was built in the 1960s and it suited the type of activities or the type of fairs that we wanted to attract. Today's international conferences, you can't limit yourself to 130 exhibitors in a pavilion. It doesn't work that way anymore. So we really need to expand the facility, even the size of the pavilions and the size of the conference rooms. Right now, we only have 2 conference rooms that function. And so the facility can't even support bringing an international event, say, of 10,000
So breaking it down, rebuilding is the best option that will give Ghanaians value for money.
Absolutely.
How do you convince us?
It's the only way, like I've explained, if you limit yourself to 130 exhibitors, you will get 130 exhibitors worth of...
But I just want to find out from you, what is it that you want Ghanaians to remember you for after your tenure is over? You won't be here forever.
Oh, of course not.
What have you set for yourself? And I'm going to permit myself, by the way, to be a bit biased in this. I'm a woman and I'm excited to see a woman succeed. What do you want us to remember you for with this place?
I think in everything you do, leave a good footprint. I want to be remembered as the woman who came and rebuilt Trade Fair. It's as simple as that.
Rebuild Trade Fair. What should we see to convince us that we saw a woman?
Everything we've talked about. Proper international convention center where you can come to your convention, stay here, eat here, play here, leisure here, all encompassing multi-purpose facility. And if I'm remembered as the woman in caps.
The woman in caps again.
Who pulled it off, then my job is done.
So we're finally here at the One District, One Factory stand, whatever that means. I'm not quite familiar with that. Well, if you've been to any trade fair, you know that this is not the usual sign that you see. We still have the CEO. She'll explain to us what is One District, One Factory doing at the Trade Fair Center?
Well, One District, One Factory is this government's initiative to industrialize Ghana. The theme for this year's trade fair is centered or themed industrializing Ghana, creating jobs. So we want to use this fair to not only highlight the government's initiative that Ghana should become an industrialized nation, but also to connect the exhibitors who are here to the idea of the One District, One Factory, and also to invite potential developers or business investors that are interested in tapping into that One District, One Factory program. I think the initiative is a great idea. It involves the private sector getting involved in the industrialization.
You didn't miss anything, actually. It almost ended.